Commitment to serving all students. You know, that slide that Dr. White had up a minute ago, you realize we have more English learners than many school divisions have students. We have more students with disabilities than many school divisions have students. Because there's many school divisions in Commonwealth of Virginia with less than 2,500 students. And we have over 2,500 in both those groups anyway. So, you know, 4 years ago when we worked on these things, and we specifically had ideas for English learners and students with disabilities. And we thank you all for carrying legislation and introducing changes to help us with those student populations. But we decided it was easier to focus on that we will speak to all students. So under all students, we also, this is where we talk about career technical education. And of course, we also believe very strongly that career technical education is not a choice between work or college. These are and. That's a false dichotomy. You know, we want children, as Dr. White said, diploma, resume, life ready, and whatever path that takes them. So we'll talk about CTE here in just a moment. Employee compensation, you're going to hear a few great facts from Kathleen Jackson here momentarily. But I'd like to draw your attention to that next to the last line under employee compensation. Today, 2025, RCPS teachers entering the profession have 3,000 less in purchasing power than they had 15 years ago. This is important because while it's absolutely true to say, and we thank the General Assembly for investing in public education, the investments are real, they're significant, but we're losing ground versus inflation for the profession. And it's becoming harder and harder for those folks. And there's lots of things we can do about teacher shortage. We provide them with great principals, great opportunities, great students, all those things, but people have got to be able to put bread on the table. So I want to pop back up to governance and budget for a minute, because this is where something you all have coached us in years that we're always very explicit about. We know there's still talk about student-weighted funding formula model. We think there's great potential there. We think it's going to be an exciting conversation. But you all have always pointed out to us that for our part of the Commonwealth, we need to safeguard the LCI. And so we're very thankful that the JLARC study said local composite index, while imperfect, is still a good indicator of local capacity. And although ours has ticked up a little bit inexplicably, compared to all the wealth gain in Northern Virginia, we still think that's a very important factor that, again, you've helped us be mindful of, and we will be speaking to as we track those things. And then lastly, assessment and accountability modernization. This is something I've been talking about for many, many years. And our SOL tests still largely are a 1990s solution to a 1980s problem, and yet we're building brand new accountability systems on top of them. And you've got to build the rock, not on shifting sand. So we really got to look at accountability. So we have some discrete requests that we're making, but you know, if there's an omnibus change that comes along, I'm also privileged to serve on the newly formed state work group on this topic, and we look forward to a consultant helping the General Assembly, help the department get an RFP out, but that obviously is going to have budget impacts, because right now, the 50 states, Virginia's cost per pupil for student assessment is one of the lowest. And we all know that ultimately you get what you pay for. So if we're going to modernize the assessment system, it's probably going to be an investment. But there's also a way to recoup some costs there. Over the years, as the assessment system has changed, for example, there's a lot of tests that are paid for and developed by the state that not every student takes.